All right, from the farm fields of Indiana to the streets of New York, every kid in the 1950s and 60s dreamed of playing in the National Basketball Association, the top pro league in the world. They dreamed of being another Bob Cousy or Oscar Robertson, Jerry West or Elgin Baylor, John Havlicek or Bill Russell. Brian Heaney was no different. He would spend hours and hours on the lone basketball court at Rockaway Beach, New York, shooting on his own, scrambling to find a game of 3-on-3, where the winning team continued to play, while if your team lost, you could sit for hours waiting to get back on the courts. You practiced so you wouldn't lose, and Brian didn't lose often. As his career advanced through high school and his ability was recognized by college recruiters, Brian's dream never faded. He realized he could combine his basketball talents with a college education and come out far ahead, winning on the court and, more importantly, winning in life. And win he did. He arrived in Wolfville, Nova Scotia as a young freshman in 1964 with solid grades out of high school and a confidence that he could play basketball at a very high level.
Yes, when he first came on campus, actually he was a little pest because he kept following us around and he would get down to the gym. And when he first started to play, some of the other players sometimes got upset because after practice he was still there practicing, and he just kept he kept pushing everybody, but no one was able to push him as much as he was able to push everybody else. He just had it naturally that he would do that. But it was one of those things where, here comes a new kid in, and coach, what's this kid trying to do, trying to show everybody else up. But it was just his work ethic, the way he loved to play basketball.
I first saw Brian when he came in as a freshman in Acadia, and right away you knew that he was going to be a player. He wasn't the world's greatest athlete, but he had that something about basketball that you can tell. His skill set was good. His energy and his desire was the greatest thing. That he played hard every day. It didn't matter whether it was one-on-one at 11 o'clock at night when he called me out of bed to come down to the gym, and he's down there by himself in the gym practicing playing defense all by himself, nobody else in the gym.
Coach Stu Aberdeen recognized that too, and while he started that 64-65 season on the bench, he soon replaced an injured starter and never began a game on the bench again. He became integral to an Acadia team that went on to win a national CIS championship.
He was by far the best ball handler on the team. I think everybody added a certain amount to it. We had big guys, we had forwards that could shoot, and once again, both with Brian and Steve Konchelski, you didn't have the three-point line at that time. And how much better they would have been because they shot from so far out, especially Steve. But he was instrumental once again because he worked hard, he got on the other players, and he obviously it was one of the reasons that we won.
In his years at Acadia, Heaney's Axeman teams won 44 regular season games and lost 5, including one streak of 36-1, in which the only loss was by 3 points in overtime. When he graduated in 1969, Heaney held 8 Acadia scoring records, including all-time points scored, 17 shy of 2,000, best one-year scoring average, 34.1 points per game, most points in one season, 696, most points in one game, 74, versus Mount A in February of 1968, and best field goal and free throw percentages in one season. His talents were lauded nationwide. Ron Foxcroft, a young official when Brian started his Acadia career, has refereed nationally and internationally as well as in the NBA. The developer of the Fox 40 whistle. Ron first saw Brian play back in 1964.
I remember many years ago going into University of Waterloo with a sellout crowd as a young referee, and this player came on the floor, and he came down the floor and he took the first jump shot in the game, and quite frankly, his name was Brian Heaney, and I was awestruck. He was like a sculpture. He was like a piece of art. He seemed, his vertical jump went right through the roof. It was a sellout crowd, and he just had the most unbelievable jump shot. And I remember standing there as a referee saying, I've arrived. I've never seen a basketball player in Canada like this.
When asked about Heaney's ability to play big-time college basketball in the U.S., Coach Stu Aberdeen, then associate coach of the University of Tennessee, once said, "This kid could play anywhere they have basketballs." Brian's 37-point performance on 18 for 27 shooting against the University of Windsor in the 1969 Canadian National University Championship preliminary round brought this comment from Windsor coach Eddie Shotero. He said, "He's the best I've ever seen in Canada." His Acadia coach that year, Gib Chapman, said, "He's one of the finest basketball players I've ever had the privilege to coach. He's a complete ball player, defending the opposition's top scorers, as well as being a pinpoint passer when double-teamed." Longtime basketball referee and member of this Hall of Fame, Johnny Fortunato, who called games in the U.S. and Canada, said Heaney was the greatest college player ever to play in Canada. He was a finished product, a great scorer, and a great playmaker. He earned honors wherever he went. He was named to the CIS Tournament All-Star Team 3 times, won Canadian Senior A All-Star Team while playing with the Halifax Schooners in 1968. Twice he was named Acadia's Athlete of the Year, as a sophomore in '66 and a senior in '69. He was an All-Star in almost every tournament in which he played. McMillan, Rode, and Richie Spears, Brian's teammate with the Halifax Schooners, comment on the defensive ability needed by a player to reach the top level.
He was a great teammate. He was very unselfish, and that's hard to say when you think of somebody that scores numbers of points like that and averages over 30 a game. But if you were open, you got the ball. And he played as hard on defense as he played on offense, and he was totally unselfish as a player.
Everybody that scores gets ignored as a defensive player. Aberdeen used to say, "Don't ever let anybody say you're just a shooter." Heaney was tough on defense. He had a hard stance, and he really battled people. It was a war.
He was just always trying to improve his game. I don't think he ever got to the point where he felt that he was confident or complacent about his abilities. He always wanted to improve.
Brian worked very hard at school, earning his degree in 1969 and taking his game to the NBA, as he hoped he would.
The ultimate compliment for Brian Heaney, he made his teammates better. And I think that came from tremendous communication. You could see it on the floor way back then. He had a tremendous ability to motivate his teammates to become better players. So the game ended, and I went into the locker room, and I turned to my partner, and I said, if I've ever seen anybody that should be in the NBA, it's that young player, Brian Heaney.
He played the 1969-70 season with the Baltimore Bullets, seeing some floor time as the last man on the bench, but scoring 8 points in a game against Phoenix, and he scored his first ever points against the Los Angeles Lakers.
He peaked near his senior year. He really showed a tremendous escalation of potential. After the experience in the NBA, Heaney played in one of the best leagues ever, the Eastern League, little-known league, where great players on the way up or the way down played, and it was a physical league. And that answers the question of both the physicality and the defense. He could really battle. I saw him play some super guys in that league, and he held his own. He was in the top 10 in scoring